How to Engage in Teens Through Family Programming webinar, combining youth and adult services into unique programs. Today we have Jessica Hilburn, a current executive director and former historian and head of adult services at Benson Memorial Library in Titusville, PA. She holds a BA from Mercyhurst University, an MA from Edinburgh, University of Pennsylvania, and she is currently working on her MLS from Valdosta State University. She loves cats, writing, the smell of fall, and the promise of wonder in every new book. Also joining us today is Becky Stahl, and she is the Youth Service Librarian at Benson Memorial Library. Having grown up in rural Pennsylvania, she's developed a passion for building up programs and services in small libraries in their communities. She holds a BS in education in K through 12 education, and she loves cats. Let's welcome Jessica and Becky. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Like you said, my name is Jess Hilburn, and I'm the current executive director and former head of adult services at Benson Memorial Library. And we also have
Becky Stahl, that's me. I'm our youth services librarian. I've been here for over 3 years now. We've had some time to build up our programs that we've put together, and we'll be talking a little bit about today.
So a little background on our community so that you can see what we've been able to do in the circumstances that we exist. So we are in northwestern Pennsylvania, about an hour south of Erie and 2 hours north of Pittsburgh. We're in a fairly rural area. We have a relatively small library. Our library opened in 1904. The library was given by children of a local oil entrepreneur, and it has been continuously operational for 116 years now. We have about 67,000 items. We have 9 staff members, 4 of whom are full-time. And due to the rural area that we serve, we do have multiple municipalities. We're on a county line, and our service area is between 14 and 15,000. Our more central population is just over 5,000. We're open 6 days and 60 hours a week. In our community, unemployment is about 2 times the national average. So that gives us a bit of a different population to work with. Our median income fluctuates between the high 20s and the low 30s. Right now, it's around $31,000 for household income. Our poverty rate fluctuates between 26 and 31%. It's usually higher than the national average. And we're also on the less affluent side of the county. So we're away from a lot of major roadways and travel corridors. So we deal with those challenges when we're doing library programs. We have a large veteran population and an aging population. And in our community, young women are most affected by poverty. And that's also reflected a lot in the attendance to our programs, where women stay at home with their kids a lot in this community, and they do make a lot less than their male counterparts on average. So that's just sort of a case study in our community.
So when we talk about programming in libraries, I know, like as a programmer myself, there is tremendous pressure on you to make sure that every single age group that is present in your community is also represented in your programs. So you want to make sure that your infants and toddlers have a special story time for them, your preschoolers have story times, your tweens have after school clubs, your teens also have things to do after school, and of course the adults, which we lovingly refer to as 18 to infinity here, also want to do like lectures and other types of programs as well. And with a small staff like we have here at Benson, where you only have maybe 1 or 2 people who can do programming, we decided to just sort of alleviate some of that pressure you might feel by incorporating all ages programs and just letting everyone in the community come to certain events.
So if you've never done family programs before, here is how we got started doing this. In early to mid 2017, our programs were very separate. Becky did her kids programs like story times and after school clubs, and I did adult programs that were oriented more to heritage and history, book clubs, things like that, very age separate type programs. From summer 2017 into early 2018, we started getting feedback about ages of participation and how parents were hoping that they could bring kids of multiple age groups to our programs, and also that they would like to participate as well. So we thought maybe some family-centered programming would be a cool thing to try. We did both passive and active programs. We'll give program examples later in the talk as well, but just some examples of passive programming were that we did some sticker art nights, we did some coloring pages. These are things that didn't require a lot of setup from us, whereas active programs required maybe some money or some active supervision, and they were good for all types of ages. So even the adults like the kids stuff that we were doing. And that's something that I think is important to keep in mind, that even if you think a program might be more suited to a younger age group, that doesn't mean that older age groups won't enjoy it as well. Because of the programs that needed some extra supervision, our family programs were born. And these were at the time pretty general programs that we hosted during summer reading. Since during summer, we knew we had a built-in excess of people coming in the library. We tried that as a testing area for these family programs like trivia, bingo, and scavenger hunts. And when those continued after summer reading, they became our family programs. So for collaboration and maximizing staff time, we, like Becky mentioned, have a limited staff and we have limited time. So we're rural and small, and that's a problem for a lot of libraries. So working with a partner really helped divide our workload. And if you can take some of the pressure off yourself and also give you an extra set of hands, that makes it so that you can do some more intense programs, some more complicated programs, and also things that require more work. We like to divide and conquer, so don't feel like you need to take everything on yourself. Delegation can be difficult, but it is necessary. And if you do have library assistants or volunteers, take advantage of them for doing these family programs, because they can be a wealth of help. It's also double payoff, because the numbers that we track for our attendance in our programs, we can use for kids and adults, because of course you're counting the people and different groups that come to your program. So that means you're getting the maximum payoff for a lot of work that you put in for a program. You also have twice the ideas and the creativity. So it's easy to get creatively drained, and don't ever feel bad about that, because we all do. But bouncing ideas off of and brainstorming with another person can alleviate that brain drain that you're feeling. And it also lets another person come up with some cool ideas, and they can have a different point of view that you might never have thought of, which I know has happened with Becky and I. She has really cool ideas for kids that I would never think of with my more adult-centric brain. And I have some ideas for adults that kids happen to like that we never even thought was possible. We also like to choose things that are minimal setup and tear down. However, if you want to choose something more complicated because you have an extra person, that is also possible. And if you're the only librarian, all of the activities that we talk about can be modified and doable for one person. So even if you only have one set of hands and you only have one brain, that is okay. You can still make these type of programs work. However, if you do have people to work with, doing family programs, and especially doing them with teens, helps you get to know your coworkers and your community better. So by doing this, everybody is bought in on this idea and this type of programming. And also kids know me better because I get this chance to interact with them, and adults get to know Becky better because she finally gets to interact with them as well. So having this sort of cross-training idea is really beneficial for all age groups that come into the library.
Next, we'll chat about affordability. So both of our budgets are extremely small and minimal, and we focus most of that on our summer reading program because that's when we get the most people in the library. Our ultimate goal is to do a program for absolutely no cost, but if we can find a way to, maybe invest a little bit here and make something like kind of low cost, as long as you can reuse something later for another program, that works really well. An example for that is the moon rocks on the screen at the top, we had used them for sort of like a space experiment box during summer reading. And then we ended up reusing the same foam balls that are wrapped in aluminum foil for, I don't know, it was kind of like an egg and a spoon game where you would go through a maze and try to keep your moon rock on the spoon without dropping it. The spoons in the picture were just taken from Jessica's house. So, you know, you have a lot of resources at home that maybe you wouldn't be able to use otherwise, or you could take advantage and bring them to the library for something. And if you're lacking in resources, we have found out that you can make up for that with atmosphere. For the space program that we did, we brought in, you had, I think, old Christmas lights that do the sparkle shower. So we turned off all the lights and we sent those sparkle showers going off, and everyone who walked in the room was very impressed to come in and see all the lights. And then we also had, I think, Star Wars music in the background. So that really made some kids' nights that evening.
And if you are tight on budget, you can also do other things, like when we do trivia night, we need dry erase boards, and we can't afford to buy that many dry erase boards. So we made our own with cardstock and laminating film, and they're not perfect. They aren't as good as normal dry erase boards, but they were certainly money saving. So just little things like that. Also, a lot of people feel the need to give prizes for events and programs and competitions, and prizes are great and we like to give them too, but when you have little to no money, that's difficult. So we do things like we have a 3D printer, a very small 3D printer that we have made some prizes on. Like we had a Game of Thrones trivia night, and we made some dragon eggs and dire wolves. And also candy is always welcome. The kids love just getting a little piece of the mini candy. It keeps them happy and satiated. And we try to get our candy on sale like around Valentine's Day and Halloween to get the biggest bang for our buck. So for attendance and participation, just some numbers that we can show you are in 2019, we had 57 total family programs. And what I mean by that are programs that were not specifically targeted to one age group, but encompassed a variety of age groups. And that goes from the smallest of children all the way up through teens and adults of all ages. And we had a total of 1,248 participants. Some feedback from this was that adults are more inclined to come to a program they can bring their kids or grandkids to. So if you're struggling with adult attendance at programs, instituting some family programs that people can bring their teenage kids to as something to do in the evening together, they're more likely to do that. It also gives grandparents a fun night out with their grandkids. We have a lot of multi-generational families in our community, and there are some evenings where the grandparents are the primary caregiver for their grandkids, and this is a good way to channel their energy. And it also structures family time, and that continues after they leave. So we've had people say that, you know, they have planned around coming to the library for this event, but even after they leave the building, they are still doing things together the rest of that evening. So it's a really nice bonding experience. We'll also talk more about feedback in our outcomes section, but this is our general attendance and participation numbers.
All right, so now we're going to talk about some of the programs that we've done as family programs. The very first one that I think we ever did was a book art program. And that kind of came about more or less because I love taking old books and turning them into something pretty to look at. And one of the examples that I've done in the past are the book pumpkins that you can see on the top right of the screen there. And I really wanted to do this with our after school kids, but then I thought about sort of like the wild and like crazy maniac kids that come in and they're just out of school, so they're very fresh and they're ready to go out and do things. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to equip them all with X-Acto knives and hot glue if it was just me in the room. And so we turned this into a book art program for families. That way the parents could also come and everyone could take their time to make something out of book art. And we gave them 3 different options when they came, so they could make a book pumpkin, a book hedgehog, or a book flower. And we had little printed tutorials for each of those that we passed out, and they could choose and make what they want.
Also, the examples on the screen here are a selection of family programs that we have done, but the ones in bold and that are underlined are ones that we know teens have attended. So that might give you a good idea of things that you can try in your community that we've seen some success with. And one of those is our art show. That brings our community together, and we integrated it with summer reading. There's a couple examples of the art show on a couple slides back, I believe. And this is a good chance for amateur artists to come out and show their work without being judged. And we run it for all ages. There is absolutely no age cutoff. All you have to do is enter your piece. We have had everything from painting and drawing to 3D art and quilting and crochet, all kinds of different types of art that people want to show. And it's been great, especially for kids and teens, because they aren't being judged. It's not a juried show. So nobody's getting told that their art isn't good enough or it's not, any better than anybody else's. It's just a chance to kind of show off your stuff. And then everybody gets something for participating. So we give out coupons for a local store or something like that. For trivia night, that is a huge success in our community, which was a little unexpected, but in a happy way. Trivia night, we rotate every other month with book bingo, which is right below it. For trivia night, we do general and themed trivias. For general, we try to make it more kid and adult friendly, so have some categories for kids, have some categories for adults, where each can kind of show their stuff. I like to use categories like entertainment, science, geography, history, local, cartoons, Disney, stuff like that, where there's going to be a lot of overlap of knowledge. I've also done some themed trivia nights like Game of Thrones, as I mentioned, holiday trivia nights, so Halloween and Christmas time, Valentine's Day. It helps to make a good mix of adult to like throwback type questions with kid questions. And again, this is a program where we ply people with candy. So they get candy when they come in, and then sometimes we'll have a little prize at the end. But of recent, I believe we 3D printed a trophy that people get to take home. Yeah. And then they have to bring back for the next trivia night, and then it's up for grabs again. And that's been like a nice little competitive thing that people seem to enjoy.
Yes, they're always waiting to see who will be the next one to take that trophy home with them. So
Yeah,
we'll see where it goes next month.
So even just making something specifically for your community makes it more fun for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Then we have Book Bingo, which is one of my favorite programs to run. Book Bingo is exactly like regular bingo. You can use all the normal cards and chips that you would for a regular bingo game. But every time somebody gets a bingo, they get to come up to the front and pick a free book from the selection that we've gotten. We usually just pull from donations that we have gotten, or if you reach out to maybe a publishing company and ask for some advanced readers copies, those would be great to give away during book bingo programs. And that's something that we've done a lot of here, and that's worked out great for us. So I can't recommend it enough.
The only word of caution is in some states, bingo is still considered gambling. It is in Pennsylvania where we are. So we are covered for running this gambling program, air quotes, by our small games of chance license through our local Chamber of Commerce, which we're a member of. So that might be something you want to check out before you run that program.
We've done sticker art programs. These are great, easy. You can use them as either a passive or an active program, depending on how much time you have. If you just go to Amazon.com and look up sticker art books, you can find these books very cheap. And there's usually, I think, like 10, 20 per book. And what you'll do is you'll just rip out the pages and you'll include the sticker pages that go with each one. And you'll make sure they get their page plus the stickers, and then they just have to match them up with the numbers. So it's a little bit like a paint by number. It's just stickers instead, which makes cleanup much easier.
We also really enjoy scavenger hunts, and so do people of all ages. This helps people find things and parts of the library they might not be acquainted with. So we'll make a sheet of clues, and then we'll hide letters in those areas, and people have to figure out where it is. Like, this is where the romance books live, and then they have to find the section where the romance books are, and then they'll see a letter and they'll write that down. And then after they get all their letters, they can unscramble them for a a word or a phrase, and then whenever they do that, then they get either some sort of entry for a prize or a little prize. Families really like to do this and compete with one another. So like kids versus the adults, or they like to team up or all go individual. Some other places where we've put clues are like the book drop, the circ desk, our copier, the kids room, different genres of books, and pretty much any place in the library you think people could use more experience with, or you don't think they really understand what it's about. This is a great way to get them interacting with it.
We've also done a lot of family story times on location. It's fun to take your story time out on the road and go someplace where normally you wouldn't hold a story time. It's great because it lets you partner with local businesses and other nonprofits in your area, helps you collaborate and work together more with the people in your community that you might not otherwise get a chance to work with regularly. So it's great for your outreach, and it gives even families a chance to go somewhere that they've never been before. And a good example of this is in our area, we have a local railroad company, and it's great because it brings in a lot of tourism for our area. But because it's kind of on the pricier end for this area, a lot of local people haven't actually done it, which was surprising because it's so much fun to just ride this train. And so we reached out to them, or I think they reached out to us, one or the other. And we worked out this deal where kids could come on, and we had like a car where I could do story times for just the kids, and it would be like maybe $5 per person. And so that was a great opportunity for everyone.
Another fun program we've done is Family Recipe Night. This was where people come together with food and sort of talk about their food-related memories. The way I did it was I advertised it so that people could bring a dish with them. And then I provided like plates and cups and napkins and something to drink for people. And you could try other people's dishes. And I also encouraged them to bring their recipe, their family recipe from home. And I made copies for everybody who came to the program. So we talked about, you know, what did my grandmother like to make that I remember her for as a child? And where did you learn how to make this dish and things like that? And we learned that a lot of memory is connected to food. And the teens that came to this program seemed to really enjoy it, because pretty much anything with food is going to be a hit, but something where they got to interact so much with the food was really cool. We also have done some plant and craft programs, both of which are very popular. I'm sure a lot of libraries already do crafts, so you don't really need me to teach you how to do crafts, but we've done a lot of really cool programs, and also plants that are very popular in our area. We have a lot of master gardeners, and we have a very active garden club, but plants can get expensive if you don't really plan for that type of program. So we do encourage people to have registration for those types of programs so they know they have enough materials. However, you can always do it on a first come, first serve basis, which we have also done with quite a bit of success. It just depends the time of year you're having it. I would suggest that if you're doing one of these during summer reading, have a registration. If you're doing it during your off time, don't worry too much about it, depending on your community. We did succulents in last summer, and we've also done crafts, like we did wood burning recently, and we did a fall craft with nail and string where we made pumpkins, which was super cute. And that was also a variety of ages, everybody from the smallest of smalls through teens and older adults with adult children came as well.
Yeah, had a lot of that. We're also incredibly lucky that we have a large community space for our programs. So I like to do a lot of activity stations, like our astronaut training camp, which is pictured in the bottom right corner. If you ever do a stationed activity sort of program, I recommend doing at least 6 different activities. That way you can keep people moving around the room. It is also good because it helps keep people entertained. Once you're done with like a certain activity, they have more to look forward to and do a bunch of other stuff as well. We also really enjoyed doing, I think, our first physical motion program last summer. We did a hula hoop face-off where you just bought a whole bunch of hula hoops, which Dollar Tree is our best friend because we got, I think, at least 30 or maybe more.
Too many.
Very easily. And we just put them on the floor and you make a little track. And then we took teams. For the first one, we did kids versus adults. And then we did a second one a couple weeks later. That was kids versus librarians. And they really enjoyed competing against us for that.
And hula hoops go farther than you think.
We're gonna use them again.
I bought way too many, but then if you like look in the picture at the bottom, we're clearly using hula hoops for one of our stationed activities. So reuse is great.
Yes.
And finally, heritage and genealogy. So that's something that I really geared toward adults for the most part, but we learned over time, just kind of accidentally by having a program that was more of a drop-in, that kids are really interested in those things as well, and that their parents like to talk to them about it. So having some heritage or local history or some genealogy programs, like if you have Ancestry, or even if you can get like a family tree chart and you have people come in and teach them how to fill it out or talk about their families, that's a great one for parents bonding with their kids of all ages. So some outcomes. Obviously in 2019, like I mentioned, we had some really good attendance, and this has been on an upswing every year that we've done more and more family programs. Cooperation and collaboration have made for a successful formula for us. The more ideas, the better, and it gives adults a chance to share in these activities with different age groups. Also, families can spend time together. It's only an hour a week that we tend to do these type of programs, but parents like to plan around the event so that they know they can come and have this bonding time together. And we also like to do things that are appropriate and interactive for all ages, and that's a key part for us. So though this presentation is geared more toward like what teens like, we like to do things that anybody from toddlers through the elderly can enjoy, because of, like I mentioned, so many grandparents are raising their grandkids, and smaller children have attention issues, though we have had some babies 0 to 2 that have not thought it was the worst thing in the world. For example, on the night we did succulents, we just gave them a little dirt, and then they like to play in the dirt and they were happy. So you kind of make it work for whoever comes to your program that day. Also, we get good bang for our buck in combining our budgets. I know some libraries just have one programming budget or maybe no programming budget, but we do separate ours into youth and adult services, even though most of what we offer is at no cost, and that can be an issue at times because we do struggle to spend the money that we have to spend just because we're really good at offering things for free. So if you ever need advice about how to make a program with very few resources free, reach out to us and we can probably help you make that happen.
There's also something that would be really helpful for a program. Like we had been running our book bingo programs without any sort of audio equipment to help our voices carry in this large space. And that ended up being a huge issue when we had well over 30 people attend our one last summer. We finally decided that we would get some speakers and a microphone set that would help us out with that. And normally, like, I wouldn't justify spending that much through my own budget, but since we were working with both of ours, we just cut it in half and shared. And now we can both use the speaker and use it when it's best.
Yeah, and it is amazing.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but also approachability and just how different age groups that you might not normally interact with, now you are familiar with on a first name basis. And it makes you not only more approachable for patrons, but it makes you better at your job because you actually know the people who are using the library and are interested in your programs. And lastly, it's just fun to work together. We like to make the library a space for learning and fun. And by working interdepartmentally, even though our departments are one person each, it makes your job more fun because you're not going it alone on programs, which can sometimes feel like you're on an island. If something doesn't work, you feel like it's a failure. Whereas when you're doing it together, it feels more like, you're just learning something and you can make it different for next time. Also, it helps when you have more than one person, because if somebody's sick or they end up having to have time off, then all of the programs we do can be run by one person. They're just easier with the both of us, and it makes us more confident with our skills in our non-dominant age groups. And generally, people just like being here, so we get to see people smile more.
Now we'll talk about some lessons learned. The very first one is that crafts are extremely popular. If you've decided that you'd like to start incorporating some family, all ages programs at your library, I can't stress enough that maybe a craft would be the best way to start out, because they've just been incredibly popular here and they've just worked the best for us. It's important if you decide to do a competition like that hula hoop face-off we had mentioned earlier, that you want to make sure that the competition is structured and that people don't get too carried away. Yeah, you just want to make sure that you don't let maybe any parents who come start to take over and control everything, because they're not the ones running the program. That would be us. Oh, not too far.
And like we mentioned, some small incentives for everybody are good to get everybody involved. Not just kids like candy, adults like candy too, even though they might eyeball you at first. Later on, they definitely want some. High energy and time limits. So with a lot of our programs, the family members tend to feed off each other. So we like to limit it to maximum of 1 hour. And we like to channel the energy into what we're doing and don't sort of like let it get out of your control. So provide for a wide range of interests and don't limit what people might be interested in. You never know if a program that you might have envisioned for kids might also be great for adults and vice versa. You can also take complex programs and make them simple, and do the opposite, take simple programs and make them complex. Anything that we tell you, you can, take off some layers of complexity, or if you think that you have some age groups that we're not hitting, you can always add in elements that appeal more to those groups that you have. And you can do that with ideas that are targeted for an age group. So if you see something that inspires you, like on Facebook or on Instagram, and you think, oh, that looks like a really cool program for adults, you can say, how can I change that and make it for a wider range of ages? Or how can I make that so that kids would like an element of that as well, and they could do it all together? And that's sort of how we structure our ingenuity.
Yes, and we found that parents and caretakers really enjoy seeing their kids have fun, but most importantly, they enjoy having the opportunity to have fun with their kids. So that's really something that's you really want to focus on when you're building your family programs.
You will probably end up bonding with members of your community. So you want to be prepared that sometimes they just really want to come and interact with you and do programs with you. And it doesn't necessarily matter what exactly you're running. It's more important that you show up and be there for them. And that's a commitment that we have made and has really paid off. And it's also okay if something is a dud. Not everything works. We like to focus on outcomes, which is something that Becky introduced here, which has been great. Numbers are nice, and numbers go on our state reports, but outcomes tell us a lot more about what's actually going on for people. So if you only have 2 people come, but you had a really amazing program, make sure you write that down. So later on when you look back and go, oh, that one wasn't so good. And you remember, no, it was really good, but maybe I should hold it at a different time, or maybe I should put it on a different day because it was a really quality program. And we like to remind everybody that for family programs, and even ones that are targeted at teens, you'll never age in or out, because even if the target is one age group, all these various age groups are going to enjoy it. So you're never going to have people that are no longer welcome at these programs because they are of a certain age.
Okay, now we're going to talk about specifically adapting these programs for teens. So again, take a look at any existing programs or ideas that you have and debate whether or not you can make them fit to a wider age range. So consider what programs you're having for teens right now. Like every month I do a teen game time. Could other age groups be interested in that subject or activity? The answer is yes. We just had a family Mario Kart night I think just last week. And we had several families come in. We didn't specifically have any teens who came for this, even though I did advertise it to our teen advisory board that if they wanted to come, they absolutely could. And they could beat their parents in front of me, which would be great. And no, we just had a couple families, and it actually brought in families that I've never seen in the building before. So that was great. And then you can also take a look at what programs are being offered for adults and children and ask yourself, are these subjects interesting to teens? And change them that way too. You want to take a look at popular hobbies in your community. This is a big area for heritage and genealogy, which while isn't something that I'm particularly interested in, it is something that can be broken down and made more interesting for children and teens. So you could absolutely have a family program that's based off of that. We've also noticed that adults and teens in our area play Dungeons and Dragons, so we're looking into just finding some sort of program that would interest all ages. So we were thinking maybe a minifigure paint night for everybody. That way the younger kids will think, oh yeah, this is awesome, I'm painting an action figure, whereas the adults and teens who come can paint their figure and then use it later for when they do a campaign in D&D. A great way to get information is just to poll your patrons. It doesn't have to be formal. I just like to talk to people when they're in the building and get a feel for, you know, what they're interested in. My teens are super into anime right now, so we're talking about doing some anime related programs. And I know a lot of the younger adults my age are also interested in anime. And parents are also a good source of information, because if you have maybe a parent who's interested in doing something, they might bring their teen along with them if you're making it an all ages program. And of course, you want to keep trying until you find out what works for you and your community. Got our brainstorming questions here. So this is where we would let you do some brainstorming. Think about the activities that are popular with your teens right now and whether or not they could be opened up to fit a larger group. So an example again is the video gaming can be turned into the family game nights. Dungeons and Dragons can become family minifigure painting. And then also consider, how would you rework any kids only or adults only activities into something that is more family friendly?
And at the bottom here, you can see some of our flyers that we've made for programs. We like things that are very colorful, that have the necessary information on them, make the date big, make the time big, make the title big, and if it's something that people might not necessarily understand, or they're not sure if there's a registration or if it costs money or if they can come by themselves, it's good to put that information into a little paragraph on there as well. And then we post those in the library, we post them on Facebook. And we now have a television above the circulation desk that we put our ads for our programs on as well. And then we can answer some questions.
Yeah.
Do we open the little thing?
Oh, let's see.
Well, oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just going to ask you if you had any questions, Tammy.
Oh, I do not. I was just saying thank you, and we will post this when I get back from PLA. So thank you so much for doing this again.